So with this, now may I request Ms. Meenakshi Sharma, Director KPMG, for her presentation.
Thank you so much, the Institute, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be speaking amongst such an august audience, and we can see the numbers also growing up. I'm sure there's some bit of environmental impact to this summit as well, and I'd say larger rumors around that. But it's still good to see on a Saturday morning so many people in the room. It's always a challenge to kind of speak after, such what should I say, such accomplished speakers. It's always a challenge, but I'll try to do my bit for the next 15-20 minutes that we're going to stay together. This will be largely around the business impact. Mr. Mukherjee also kind of spelt it out on how, as a CEO, he looks at ESG. Before that, Professor Saab already guided us on how ESG has become mainstream, and Aditi, of course, has been a professional in this, so she has kind of spoken about the framework, the standards, and how the entire sustainability reporting is changing. I think it has all got to do with the way the world is changing. We're not, I think one of the speakers said that we're probably the first generation facing the climate change, and I think everyone here would want to believe that we should be the last generation looking at the impacts of climate change. Our children should live in a free world, which is not bothered by the impacts that, we have created or our forefathers have created. But let's look at the opportunity side of it. I think at the rather beautiful side of it, if I were to stay, and I think Aditi did say that when she was earlier in this profession, what did she hear, and now I'm sure she's the face in many conferences. We've seen her together. I think the times have changed starkly if you talk about sustainability, right? And in India, I think this word kind of came in with CSR, right? And that is when 2013 Companies Act came in. So I'm a company secretary by qualification, so I will kind of use references from law here and there. But I think that is the first time when we saw CSR and heard about GRI reporting, for that matter. And some companies were doing this, though it's not a mandate, but highly intensive industries like cement or steel or mining, started doing it. And I used to work with a tech company that time, and this was kind of a, something like a new kid on the block, and we were just wondering, and we said, oh, this doesn't bother us, ESG, or I think ESG is a more recent coined term, if we were to say. That time it was CSR, a little later it was sustainability. And we said, no, we don't pollute, we are a tech company. If you went to the banks anytime, they would say, it's absolutely got nothing to do with us. We are not manufacturing anything, so we're not polluting. And if we are not polluting, we've got nothing to do with sustainability. And I'm sure some of those here will kind of, agree to me on this. And then, it changed. It changed from Schedule 13, where there was those 17 activities listed. And it still kind of worries me when people have those fancy and all tick-marked CSR reports, and you come out of that fancy office, and you just go to the near about areas, and you will find a lot of things that you will not feel happy about. Though one of the aspects of the CSR mandate from the Companies Act also says that the funds should be invested in near around areas, but I don't know where those funds get invested. So that is there, but the times have changed now to discussions, the theme of an institution which kind of supports financial industry, the global summit having its theme around sustainability. Where we have come to, it would have been unimaginable a few years back, and I'm sure the ICI convention you're talking about had a similar theme. Everybody, the government is talking about sustainability, is talking about ESG. So I think we are in very good times. IFRS has brought about 2 standards already. Now, it would have been very unbelievable for me to think, and some people on the stage, dais as well, and in the audience, that accountants would ever think about sustainability or ESG. They always thought it is it is the job of the CSR guy. We've got them here and they'll do something or the other, and excuse me, or please forgive me, but philanthropy and CSR have been interchangeably used, not in our country but everywhere else. That is changing now. A sea change has come in. So I think we are in the best of the times, whether we are a finance professional, whether we are a sustainability professional, but all is changing. And now at least we have, what do we say, we have at least recognized and accepted that yes, we have done something wrong to the environment. Now the knowledge level has come down to, even if you talk to a cab driver, right, he will say that madam हमने ये सब कुछ किया है, इस वजह से ये हो रहा है आज. So the understanding level has come to that level. And what Mr. Bhattacharya was saying is absolutely right. The 9-year-old children today talk about SDG goals. They're working on projects SDG goals because their schools are actually talking with alignment to the SDG goals, and they're not doing it on paper. See, today, whether you're doing it on letter or spirit is for professionals, but with kids of that age, it is not that. Everything, I think, comes from spirit. And similarly with the consumers, one of the presentations did talk about consumers are actually doing this. Now just see for yourself when you're doing online shopping, if it asks you for a little more, and there'll be written there, this has been sustainably sourced, you don't mind paying a little extra. The Gen Z or the Gen X or whatever you may call it, they don't mind paying a little extra. So that is where we have come to. So I think we've come through a difficult task. I don't say that, whatever we have created around us is very beautiful, but we are definitely living in the best of the times when everybody is at least accepting that we are in a mess and we need to really, really do something about it. The CEO talking about how sustainability can be merged to derive profits, fantastic. I don't think there can be anything better than this. And if businesses get onto this, if so many management accountants start thinking about it, and the kind of information that you supply to the management is based upon the sustainability parameters, I think we are in the excellent times. So on that note, I will start off with my presentation here. So this is what, again, I'm trying to just showcase where we have come from, where we have reached. There was the financial integrated reporting, if anybody understands that, kind of talks about 6 capitals. And you can imagine anything that you do or that a business does is not outside of those 6 capitals. Everything is in there. We started from the financial capital way back, so that has been the essence. Until now, somehow I believe, and people here can correct me, why were we not able to gain mainstream? Because the financial capital was standing outside. The annual report just had the balance sheet, the cash flow, and the P&L, which never talked about sustainability. For that, you had to refer to a sustainability report. And does an investor go to a sustainability report? A financial investor. That is why something like an integrated reporting came in. Or that is why now the IFRS Institute, ISSB, has come out with the sustainability standards, because they need to meet. As an investor, I really need to see that are you driving profits out of the right means by doing the right things on all the 3 things: environment, social, and governance. And that is what I need to see in your accounts. When this beautiful merger is happening is the glorious time for environment, social, and governance for sustainability. So financial capital started, then we moved to manufactured capital, then we moved to human and intellectual capital, and finally the era of sustainability and climate change happened. I don't know whether COVID has caused a lot of harm to all of us in one way or the other. But I think the only good thing which has emerged out of it is our preference to understanding that yes, we are doing something wrong and the environment is something that we really, really need to preserve and conserve. Again, I think in the last 2 years, the progress that we have seen for everybody to get into ESG, the government of India kind of announcing the net zero norms. Huge groups like Tata's, Reliance, Jindal's, etc. giving their net zero norms. Think of it, just kind of thinking of it actually is such a difficult task, but they have actually taken up those targets that they will become net zero. And I think this has all progressed in the last 2 years. Nature has shown us that if I really want, I can all put you to rest. And that is what was done to us from 20 to 22. Now, if we have to gain speed, then we have to work according to the environment which we live in. And when I say environment, of course, I mean social and governance together. Unfortunately, today, earlier we confused CSR with philanthropy. Today, we are confusing ESG with CSR. We are forgetting that that is only one pillar. There is social, which is very, very important. And maybe not at this, but another time if we get a chance. I have a lot of examples to share where businesses have failed because they did not respect the communities around. The communities could be people, the communities could be environment, anything. So social is a very, very important factor. And so is the third pillar, which is the governance. The board has to be the guiding light for us, for the businesses, for the CEOs. If it is not there, then ESG is not there. And only CSR is not ESG for sure. So I think we've kind of covered this, but has it translated from good to have to must have? I think again in the last 2-3 years, sustainability reports, I think Aditi can share her data with us on how many companies in India were doing that, to how many companies in India are doing it now, when that is absolutely not mandatory in India by the regulator. The SEBI doesn't ask you to produce a sustainability report, but SEBI does ask you to produce a BRSR, and we'll talk about that as well. So that has grown from a good to have to must have by choice. Right? BRSR you will have to do, but a company producing a BRSR is also doing a sustainability report, is also doing an integrated report where there is no mandate in any nation except South Africa in the world. Why? Because the investors are asking for that kind of information. If you are not measuring data, then that doesn't make sense. So that's what she kind of answered in one of the questions also. Talk about facts. People will ask you, you can't do greenwashing anymore. There are standards coming on assurances as well. The raters framework, I think that is also undergoing a change. And SEBI has already put out a discussion paper on that, which will get finalized soon. So that is where I think the role of the management accountants come in for clear-cut data to be instilled, because that data is going to get assured. Next year 150, 250, then 1,000. I think it's going to be another kind of an audit area which is coming up for professionals like you and I. Collaborations for survival. So I think this collaboration with not only communities that we have, but everybody, all our stakeholders. The business model has to change. So when, I'm a consultant. So when we used to do integrated reporting with people, the first thing which we used to tell the CEOs is that we will have to, kind of make your business model. And they used to laugh at us and say that, Meenakshi, we've been kind of running our businesses for long, and we have a respected business model. And here you come and say that, you have to make a business model for us. The business model which encompasses the 6 capitals, how that money is earned, to what good use that money is put to. What are the outcomes emanating? So you have an output for a business, but what are the outcomes? Outcomes is a very, very necessary thing that we as business owners, as professionals, don't pay heed to. And that is what is causing all the mess. So that is where, the whole business model will change if you look at it from the ESG perspective. There is, when I say this fast representing an existential threat to companies, of course. There have been companies which have died down their own natural death because they did not keep in pace with whatever was changing. You look at your phones, BlackBerry used to be, used to be a glam factor at some point of time. Does anybody have a BlackBerry here? We're not talking beyond 10 years, right? Nokia? No? So people did not want to keep pace with changing times and they vanished, right? Photocopiers, those kind of things. Kodak moment, the moment that the adjective still remains, but are Kodak cameras there anymore? In fact, for that matter, any cameras, digital ones are not there anymore, right? I feel so bad because I had spent a fortune buying one camera, and after 2 years, I found that I was clicking more pictures with the mobile rather than the camera. So the same is with us as professionals also. You may like it, you may not like it, and that's what I say almost at all my conversations. You like ESG, you may not like it, but if you don't adapt to it, then I'm sorry. These are changing times that we kind of have to respect. Stakeholder activism, that is another thing very, very important, which Mr. Bhattacharya had pointed out. Those are the proxy advisors, right? On the governance thing, if I pick up, because I'm a governance professional, uh, you know they kind of uh, put you a negative rating if your independent directors have been with you for long, right? Your Companies Act provides you 5 plus 5 10 years, but if you are beyond 5 years, the merit that they give is, do you really think they are independent? So again, in law and spirit, some confusion. So respect those voices, get them into the room, at least talk it out with them. They may have some suggestions which can improve, but just keeping them away is not going to help. Is just not going to help. So whether they are environmental activists, shareholder activism, everything is gaining prominence. So it's not democracy in the democratic way of things, but democracy otherwise also is growing. So we need to understand and have everybody together to be able to grow our businesses very well. The regulatory landscape, if we look at India, we had some NVG guidelines come up in 2011. I will not traverse through all of this, but now last month, June 14, is when SEBI came out with that circular, which it had already passed in its board meeting in March 29, saying that there'll be a BRSR core. So again, coming to factual data collection, KPIs, you understand that better than anybody else, right? KPIs, they have given those KPIs, and now you give me the information basis that KPI, and hey, I will have somebody verify that as well. So assurance comes into play. Then your value chain partners. So there's enough mess to be sorted, right? But all of that has to be there if we have to present a clean picture. Why do we rely on audited accounts? Somebody has had a vision. Somebody has looked them through. Somebody has signed them. Similarly, with your ESG reports also, somebody signing them will give a credibility to the user, reader, investor, whoever is coming in. So the times with SEBI are in India, and I sit on some global committees for ESG reporting, and let me tell you, BRSR is one good format, though I will still say that it has a long time to go, because I somehow I'm not a very good fan of the tick in the box kind of reporting. But if you have to be comparable with global standards, with your peer companies sitting globally, I think that is the way to at least start with. But this is on the top of agenda of our regulator, our government as well. And that is, I think, a happy and a good news for us. This is what Aditi has already covered, so I don't think I need to spend any time here. Let's look at, future. I think this is a very interesting slide where we've seen this, and I look at this global risk landscape, wherever this World Economic Forum kind of releases it. Just have a look at the legends which are there, right? This is the 23 risk landscape, and this is the 22. There is no economic risk in the top 10 risks in 2023. Though that would be a little wrong to say, because most of them have an impact on your economic, on economics as well. But the top risk which has been highlighted is failure to mitigate climate change. That's the top risk. And this is not Meenakshi Sharma who's saying that. This World Economic Forum who's saying that, right? Even last year we had climate action failure as the top risk. So what I'm saying is green colors are dominant everywhere. So everybody has understood that the way forward is by respecting Mother Nature and the social and the governance aspect of it. Otherwise, we're not going anywhere. I don't know how it would have looked 10 years back. I don't think besides one or two greens, anything would have been there. So I've done a lot of annual report work for client companies and companies as such. The MD&A asks you to talk about risks and opportunities. Hardly would you have seen the environment or the social or the governance risks coming up there. Now with materiality, etc., coming in sustainability reports, when you do a materiality analysis, you engage with your stakeholders and you bring out your top material risks. That is where it is getting a place. And when, both the reportings will merge and you will have a single report talking about it. I'm sure that the green risks will come to the top and the management discussion and analysis will also talk about it. The trends which are coming in, I think information on supply chain will become very, I think that was one of the question also, right? I, I don't think if I'm doing good myself, okay, I travel in fancy cars for even a shorter distance, I use a lot of airplanes, etc. But, I am eating in bamboo plates. So I can say that, I am good, but I'm not bothered about the value chain that I have used for myself. That's not the way it's going to go any further. Right. We were having a conversation and Mr. Bhattacharya was saying that a company is just reporting about good done with their employees, not outside. So I think the GHG 3 emissions, people are seriously lost about it. Whoever we talk to, they're saying this is absolutely impossible, but I'm sure in the next 1 to 2 years, people will make their way throughout. But your value chain partners, you have to kind of get the spirit down there also. I agree that it is going to be difficult, but there's no way around it. Financial reporting, I think that two standards are already out. I'm sure you guys already would have also started working around it. The chartered accountants are messing up their head because till now they thought that, oh, this is somebody else's thing. I don't need to think about it, with no hard feelings towards any chartered accountants in the audience here. But now they agree that, they come to us and they say that, we really need to understand something about it. So it's good. It's really good. Reporting, I think Aditi has again, spoken a lot about reporting, so I'll not talk about it, but reporting will focus on how you are implementing. So short, medium, and long term will have to come into play. This will not be a reporting for a reporting sake, but it has to evolve into our ESG kind of integrated thinking. We will have to incorporate that into the business models of our organization to be able to do that. The future of ESG reporting, of course, we are seeing that the frameworks and the standards, there's a thin line. In her presentation also, we saw that figure, right? And there was this common thing in between. So I think there is some collaboration happening there. Good for us. Governments and regulators, the worldwide, are thinking about it. Stakeholders are asking for it. So there is no other choice but to give it. Assurances are very important, because to be able to rely on something, it needs to be audited. The last but not the least is digitizing it. I think that is something which all the reports are kind of going that way. CEO's dilemma, there are some facts on the screen from a CEO survey that we had done, speaks for itself. The CEOs today are agreeing that my business can flourish if I incorporate the ESG principles, and I may have to face some heat if I still don't look at that. So, those are some of the figures that you see on the screen. There are again top 5 challenges that the CEOs have recognized. If they don't get the budgets, etc., no implementation happening, that is again going to, they're going to feel a heat on the business, is what they say. So then, if we say all of this, then how is the CEO agenda kind of going to look like? Again, some change in business model, of course, incorporating the finer aspects from ESG is required. Looking at the demands from investors, I would rather say demands from all stakeholders to kind of come in. Alignment with the board's fiduciary responsibility. The boards have to, so now the requirements is coming from boards to us to kind of let them know and understand what this is coming in. And you just said that you had a board requirement on talking more about it. So the boards are clearly interested, but it has to be a top-down model approach, right? We've all seen in businesses, it works very well when there is a top-down bottom approach. When this is coming as a clear-cut mandate is when everybody kind of respects this. Litigation risk is there, which a CEO has to manage. I think these are the larger, broader areas, but I'm sure all the CEOs are getting equipped to doing businesses in the new manner. Setting the tone at the top, that is a very important thing. For all of us to kind of build it, live it, think in that manner, this has to be ingrained in the way we do our business. It's not that because of the mobility business that he is in, which is a greener fashion, that people should think like that. I'm sure that in Tata's, this is a way of life. It should become a way of life. So I, again, I will refer to the Tata's group, because I really, really hold a lot of respect for this large group in India. And I happened to be at Jamshedpur when they were just taking me through a round, and they actually showed me that this was the first company in India to kind of launch the PF system way before it was heard of. That's a big, big contribution on social, if we call it, right? Way before it was mandated. And today also we see people trying to play around with kind of PF contributions and all the things around it. So there are live examples within us who've been doing this for long. We have a name for it now. Asking the right questions, being more transparent, all the kind of reportings that are coming in is just to enhance the disclosures, so that as readers, as consumers, as stakeholders of any business, we come to know what is happening, what is the business really up to, and what is it doing. Some of the questions that the CEOs need to ask themselves: what processes do we have? Clear-cut data can only be come through correctly made processes, SOPs, etc., which have to be at place. Understanding the risks and opportunities associated with ESG, ability to integrate ESG parameters with vision, goal, mission of the organization. Sometimes even have to look at the board, whether they are actually capacitant to be able to drive this journey or no. Otherwise, help them build up these criteria and these capabilities. Focus on governance for driving D&I and equity. This is a very, very important pillar that has to be recognized now and incorporated, because governance is a very strong pillar of ESG. And how we effectively, once we've done all of this, communication is very important, because we saw some of the raters, right, in one of the slides. Some of the raters don't even come to you. They will just look at your public disclosures and rate you. You really don't want to go in a toss for your business if you've got a bad rating from one of these sustainability raters. So the disclosures and the reporting is very, very important. Opportunities for growth. Definitely, there are a lot of opportunities for growth for business if they align themselves with ESG, invest in real-time technologies, because if you think of doing something today without having a handle on technology, I'm sorry, but we're going to miss the bus if you're looking at that. Take the lead on IDE, inclusion, diversity, and equity. That is something that we as a nation have got lot to do. Right? And I really don't need to talk more about it, but we all in our hearts understand where we are, and it's good to see that on the forum today we have 2 women, but otherwise, and a lot of women in the audience as well. But it's not the case everywhere. I'm sure Aditi would have gone into forums where she's the only one acting, giving the IDE flavor. So that is an area where we as a nation collectively and businesses need to do lot more, bring strong connections among functions. This is not only the responsibility of your sustainability team, your ESG team, or your CSR team. It has to be a part of your business. CMA's role. So, the last slide, but I think this is the slide that you all should kind of like. I have spoken about it during the presentation also. What can be your role? You are guiding light to the management on what could be done next, what could be done better from your management reports and your accounting. I think this is where your data analysis, reporting of ESG parameters is something that you can build up into your MISs. ESG goal settings and targets, integrating ESG into risk management frameworks, very, very important, and providing an analysis basis all the data that you have gathered to your management so that they can take right decisions for the business. And of course, financial implications or ROIs. Everybody is doing their bit, right? You and I, if we do something as small as kind of, using, I'll put in a very small example, using 1 glass per day, and not every time you drink water, you put that glass to washing. You are doing your bit. We should always remember that and feel happy about it. We are doing our bit, but we need to understand, is it enough? That is a question that I will leave you with. Thank you so much for having me here. If there are any questions, I can kind of. Yes, please. Yeah.
So, like our sponsors, ONGC, Indian Oil, NTPC, if we decide that we move to hydrogen, what will be the business model they are planning to adopt? Do you have insights on that? Because these are the most biggest company which will resist this change to green.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that out. In fact, that was something in my mind too, and I wanted to talk about that. Uh, See, things are changing very fast, businesses are changing very fast, and that's the way to go forward, right? If we think that what I'm doing today, I will have no competition, this technology is going to prevail for years and years to come, we would not have, had anything. We would not have had electricity, we would not have air conditioners, we would have still sit in the stone age era. That's not there to happen. So while we took baby steps, came from, fossil fuel to renewables to now green hydrogen, is that an opportunity? That is a risk. I think with risk comes an opportunity, and Mr. Mukherjee already kind of highlighted this to us, that there are, business models getting changed. They've developed a new, they've framed a new entity who's working on it. So I'm sure that, while I would not have insights into the business models of these organizations, but definitely, green hydrogen is a big thing which is coming in, ushering in the new era, and hopefully it will be good for all of us. But I'm sure that people have started thinking. One of the CEOs just told us that. Yes. Yes. Yeah, please. Okay. This
Thank
should be
you.
the last question, because I think we
Yeah.
have, yeah.
Yeah, hi, I'm CMA Amit Jadhav from Nasik chapter. The question is that, the role or the responsibility of the CMA, particularly if the person is working in industry, it's quite good and explanative. But the question is that how the professional CMA or the practicing CMA can play a vital role into this parameters.
So basically, as I said, and I'd request any of the senior CMAs to kind of talk about it, because I'm not one, so I may not be able to give you the granular information. But what I think is, you are a part of somebody basis whose report the management or the board is guided to work towards their vision and mission, right? Incorporating some of the aspects related to ESG, suggesting them. I totally understand that it is not something that you come up today and your management will accept, and they'll make Herculean changes in the way they work. That's not going to happen. But I think as a professional, you should kind of read a lot about it. There's no other way than to get knowledge than to read about it or to understand about it. Develop those matrices, develop those information systems, you know put them up to your management, let them decide, whether they want to inculcate all of that into their business models, and then probably you can play a greater role in kind of driving ESG for your businesses or your client businesses, is what I would believe. But
Means we can say that it will be another field for the practicing CMAs.
yes, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an insightful presentation and all.